I'm going to give you the answer to the question that you clicked on right away. I know, I'm very generous. Feel free to leave a tip. So, is Sinners actually worth the hype that it's getting all right now? It's getting so much attention and it's crushing all the ratings. My answer? No. But stick around and I promise it's going to make sense once I explain everything. And trust me, you're going to want to hear it. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jordan and I love watching movies and then I review them. And with the hype for Sinners right now, I hope my different perspective gives you something else to think about. And if it doesn't, then I hope these gifs and memes I put in entertain you. So go grab your popcorn and candy and let's dive on in. Okay, first off, I do want to acknowledge that it's not a bad movie. I was really entertained with it. I thought the acting was good, the music was good, cinematography was good. The editing, the pacing of the editing was really good. Like, there was just a lot of really great elements to this.
And voila, snaps for grace.
You're probably like, well, Jordan, if you said you like everything, then why are you saying it's not as good as everyone else's? And why? That is a very good question to ask. And now let me explain why. Where I find the movie falls short in the standing ovation that it's getting is the story pacing gaps and its directions. Oh, and heads up, this review is going to have a lot of spoilers in it. If you don't want any spoilers, just pause this video, come back later, and then you can finish it. If you don't care about spoilers, keep going ahead, help my watch time. Okay, so let's get into the pacing. I thought the setup for this movie was really long and boring. There was so much buildup for this main event that was happening in the evening, the start of Smoke and Stack's new nightclub. And during the setup, Smoke and Stack goes looking for all the people that they've known in the past. And so you get to see all these new characters, learn about their stories. They have some interesting backstories. You get to see some of the characters that they pissed off and stuff, whatever. Essentially, you're just getting to meet all these people. And at the same time, it was kind of vague. You know what? In a previous video, I did talk about how exposition is really hard to tackle. It's because you want to give information, but you also can't give so much away where it looks like you're just a history book, because that's not how you talk in real life. And in this movie, I just felt like it just dragged on a little too much, but once it hit the nighttime, all the juicy parts came out. But it took some time to get there. Like, did anyone else think that? Was it just me? Okay, it wasn't just the slow pacing that I have a critique with. It's also how the movie was leading me. It felt like it was in a lot of directions, and the vampires did not help it. And I'll get to that in a second. When the nightfall actually kicks in, you know, people are getting their drinks. Everybody in the club getting tips. They're having a good time. They're listening to some good music. Oh my goodness, the music was just, oh, so good. Loved it. But I mean, honestly, things were starting to pick up at that time. And there was a lot of chattering between the main characters. However, I wasn't really totally sure about the purpose of those chit chats. Like, was it foreshadowing, character development, plot development? As those were happening, I just still couldn't understand what's the purpose behind it. But then things started getting a little bit more interesting once the vampires showed up. Loved them.
And voila, snaps for and voila, snaps for grace.
I absolutely loved the vampire bards. I totally thought it was cool. Their threatening, their power, all that stuff was the song they sang, oh, really good. I mean, all the music was good. But anyways, and that's where I thought this movie had potential until it didn't. And their part of the story was way too quick. Because here's what happened. Once people realized that there's the vampires and that the main characters are trapped in the house or the club, you'd think it was going to turn into an all survival night type of movie. But it didn't. Nope. What happens is the vampires respectfully stay outside and, you know, they'll have conversations literally with the door wide open and they're like, yeah, And the vampires, you would think they would just go on in and attack, but they didn't. The only time they came in was this big battle scene. One big battle scene. Let me be clear about that. It was just off. I don't understand the rules of these vampires because they're very vicious, and then yet at the same time they're just staying outside, huddling around a campfire saying kumbaya. Really, they were doing something like that. And to be honest, I think the final escape was way too easy. So hear me out. There was a lot of buildup. So there was a huge buildup of the movie, and then you get the nightclub scene, and then you get the vampires, and you're like, oh, cool, this is really gonna start going in. Uh-uh. Vampires was only about 20 minutes. To be honest, I wish there's a lot more time to watch the characters defend themselves, fight off the vampires, anything. Like, I totally thought this movie was going to be more about that, but it really wasn't. And so, yeah, I kind of left the theaters a little bit dissatisfied, to be honest. Something about it just didn't feel complete. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized they just put emphasis on the things that didn't need it versus the stuff that actually needed emphasis. And what's the issue here? They're spending way too much time developing these characters. And then for all of a sudden, at one given moment, most of those characters, bye bye, don't need them anymore. They get attacked by the vampires and become vampires, and so they're pretty much dead. Get what the filmmakers were trying to do. They wanted to break out of the horror trope where you don't really need to put a lot of character description development into them, because you know what, they're gonna be dead anyways. They're gonna get killed, and bam, you don't really need that. We're all here to see the killings.
Do you want to play a game?
I get that. I give a lot of kudos for them trying this out. However, I do think they missed the bullseye here. You spend most of the movie developing these characters, learning just little snippets about their relationships and stuff, and their wants and desires and stuff, and then in a second, they're all gone. Really, it just felt like that. I can't decide if I'm just dissatisfied with the amount of buildup there was, and there wasn't a lot of these characters getting to attack. It seemed way too easy for some of them to get attacked by the vampires, and so I'm just like, what? Anyways, I just feel like there was a lot of buildup for so many of these storylines just to get crushed immediately.
All hail Plankton! All hail Plankton!
And I just didn't feel like there was a lot of payoff to it. Don't get me started on a lot of the themes that they were trying to explore in this movie. That is a different conversation. Okay, so I just kind of spitballed a lot of things. I just placed all of my critiques on the table. And so how can I wrap all of these critiques up in a little bow? Essentially, what went wrong here? I think they tried to do too much at once. Rotten Tomatoes calls this movie a horror, mystery, and thriller drama. That is a lot of genres in one story. And I'm all about like mixing genres together, but like that's 4 genres. 4. Oh my goodness. And because of that, I just feel like the direction was pulled in so many areas. Like it was not even a tug of war. It was like a go it. Oh my goodness. And as a viewer, I was kind of confused. I thought I was coming into a horror film, but then it seemed like a drama. Like there was a lot of setup between Smoke and Stack, and honestly, that stuff just kind of. And then I thought this was more of a vampire thing. I totally forgot about the vampires. I did know something was happening that evening, but again, when that actually happened, it just seemed like it was its own little section. Didn't really do much. Yeah, and then they were trying to tackle on some themes and stuff. There was just so many layers, and it wasn't like good layers. It just was all over the place for me. If I'm being honest. Just because I had quite a bit of critiques about the story, the direction, all that stuff, does not mean it was a bad movie. I completely see why it's grabbing everyone's attention right now. For a while now, we've been having bland movies and endless remakes, and so when this showed up, whoa, it was brand new, it was fresh, it was original, it was good. And so, yeah, I do give credit to where credit is deserved. Here's the big thing that I just want to leave you with today. Don't be afraid to have your own critiques, even if it's being hyped up everywhere. Just because something is winning the popularity contest out there does not mean that it's the best thing. So I'm kind of curious, is Sinners getting the hype that it's getting right now because it's great? Or is it the best thing that we've had in a while? Let me know what you think. Oh, and before I wrap things up, I just want to say that when I was walking out of the theaters, oh my goodness, there are so many people in the lobby. The line for popcorn was just crazy, and I loved that. I was just so happy to see so many people going to the movies on a Saturday night. Since the start of streaming services, the decline in going to the movies has been big, really big. I mean, when I was in film school, my teachers were saying, hey, go to the theaters, go to the theaters. We need people going to the theaters if we want to keep it alive. But now that we've had quite a few years of streaming, I am curious to know if people are sick and tired of it, just sick and tired of staying home all the time, and now they want to go out in the world, experience things with each other. And I hope that's the case because I really do want the theaters to be alive. Anyways, with that said, if you really enjoyed my movie review, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Help me get to 1,000. It's like a partnership. I make these videos and then you get to watch and be entertained. Isn't that great? And I do post every Wednesdays and Saturdays. Oh, if you do want to see what I'm watching, what I might be reviewing, I do have Letterboxd, so I'll drop that username in the description below. Go follow me. And until next time, go stock up on your popcorn and candy, and I'll see you next time.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
Oh, hell no.